I know it's been a while since I last published a video, probably more than a month, but sorry guys. I have a lot on my plate, and all of a sudden after this pandemic break, work is coming on my way from all over the place, and I have to catch up. So I am a little bit behind the videos when it comes to the technical side. Regardless, the past two videos that I published on YouTube were about how to create HTML table and how to style them before you send it by email or you do anything else with it. At the same time, I got quite a few feedbacks that, okay, Ali, the gorgeous table that you created is fantastic, but when we send the same table as a part of approval request, it doesn't look that great. So let's give it a try. I opened the same tables. By the way, if you haven't watched those videos, I will put the link right there, so you can look it up and take a look into it before we start. But anyway, I'm continuing with the flow that created that beautiful table with the other two videos, and then we go on with it. So basically, we update the same flow that we have, and we actually pass the same table to an approval request and see how ugly it looks, and then we see how we can fix it. How's that? Let's start. That was the video that I created in the beginning. So basically, we got a JSON content that we received from a table, we simplified it, and we converted that to an HTML table. And finally, we styled it in the next video, and it looked something like this table. Fantastic color selection and style. Now we want to see if we can have the same beauty when it comes to the approval request. So basically, we want to get this table and send it straight to an approval request and see how it looks. And why these people are complaining, I really don't see any reason. This is the flow that we created. As you can remember, we get the item from SharePoint. We create a style for the table, just like a CSS style. And then we use the select. We convert whatever we get from the items to a simplified JSON. And at the end, we create the HTML table using create HTML table action. So we get the output from the select and convert it to something more usable. And at the end, we send it by email. And that's how the email looks like. Now, to make it a little bit simpler, I don't want to style it. Let me just get rid of the email. I really don't need that email anymore. Compose, I don't need it. Create HTML table creates the HTML table for me, and let me just get rid of the style. Let's see if we can just get the table inside the approval request. And right after that, create HTML table. If we want to create an approval request, approval. So I click on approvals and I create an approval. This approval, I make it like simple approve reject. It doesn't really matter. First respond is good enough. Title is going to be test table in approval, and it's assigned to myself. Details, I am going to get the output from this create HTML table and put it here. So create HTML, I put the output. That's going to be my HTML table. And I don't need a link item or item link description. It doesn't really matter. Advanced options, I really don't need anything else here. So we're good. Now I need to wait for this approval. It's just created. Wait for approval. And I just need to get the ID from this approval request. So I go under create an approval, and under that I get the approval ID. So basically this one submits this approval request that I just created here and waits for the response to come from all the approvers. In this case, we have only one approver. It doesn't really matter at the moment, even if there are many. The first one that replies, it will go through because of the setting that we did here. First to respond. All good. Let's add another compose here just to capture the output here. So if I click on compose, I can click on this and I can get the outcome from the wait for approval. So wait for approval, outcome, I just say save, and we're good to go. Let me click on test and see what we get out of it. Remember, the initial email that we had was nice and good looking like this. And now I need to see why people are complaining when I put it inside the wait for approval. Test, save and test, and I click on run flow, done. Okay, when it says wait for approval, it means that, okay, it reached there and now it's not going to go through until someone goes to that request and click on either approve or reject. So I get it both ways. I get it under flow UI, or I get it in the mailbox. So let's take a look at the mailbox and see what we got there. This is the original one and this is the new one. Okay, so seems like people were right. It's not as fancy as I had something here, and I don't think they were really too picky. It needs some attention. So let's see how we can convert this to a reasonable table that can be presented here. By the way, even if you go to the flow application, I click on approvals. This is the test table approval. And if you want to take a look at it, the detail does not look any better than what we saw in the email. So let me just reject this and get rid of it. Of course, when I cannot read something, I reject it. Done. And if I go back to the flows and I click on this, test is successful. And if I come back here, compose, the result is reject. So we're good as long as it works, but what we get in the email is not the readable message or is not a table that we want to see. And that's where the problem starts. So let's see how we can take care of this one. To do that, I click on create an approval, and inside the approval, whatever that is going wrong, it's happening under these details. Let me just get rid of this and show you what we missed. It tells you it's Markdown supported. And what this Markdown is, they actually put a link here that you can go there to aka.ms/approval details. And if you click on this short URL, it redirects you to a page like this that says use Markdown in Power Automate approval request. Now, here is the thing. You may say, Ali, you know what, just put the link there and we will go through it and we will figure it out. The reality is that it's not that simple. Otherwise, I wouldn't have spent my time creating this video. First of all, the features that they have headers, numbered lists, nested lists, numbered lists, tables, images, blah, 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 and all those things. Keep in mind, people get approval requests sometimes inside Power Automate, the web UI that we're working with. Sometimes they get it in the mobile app, Outlook, Outlook Web, Teams, and Teams mobile app. So depending on where we get, some features work and some features don't work. So you may want to avoid some of them. And as you can see, the worst is Teams when it comes to supporting features. The other thing is that nothing supports images. So basically, if you want to insert images, you're out of luck. Headers, numbered lists, blah, blah, and all those things, it's out of question. So you can simply go through it and figure it out. And I really don't want to spend time on them. But one thing to keep in mind, what I see here, it's 6/27/2020, and it's less than 2 months old. And I already see that what I see here as the features, they do not really match with the actual Flow works. So it seems like Flow team or Power Automate team changes the features so fast that the Docs team cannot catch up with. So at the end, do not trust it 100%, but although it's a very good guideline to start with. Let's get back to our job and see how we can put this table that we got here properly here, that it can do the job or it can present itself as a table. So the first thing is, let's set the expectation. Here you do not have styles, you do not have fonts and all those things. So everything is decided by the Power Automate engine. You have some limited features that you can play with, and one of them is tables. So guys, a fancy and sexy looking table like this is not an option inside approval request. Now let's get back and build our table. First of all, we don't need this create HTML table anymore. Let's get rid of it. The other thing is that because you get all the items here and you really don't want to pass it to HTML table, you really don't need this select. But at the same time, I would like to use this select. And here is the reason. Because this select gives me a very simple and clean JSON content that I can work with, and I'd rather use that as a base, so for more complex scenarios you can find your own way. So regardless, I have a select that returns JSON, and to work with that JSON I need to go through every single one of those items. Let's see what this select returns. If I go back to my previous execution, let me just save this and check the value that select returns. God's sake, here. First one. And if I click on that select, the output is this JSON. I take a copy of it, and as you can see, it's a JSON array. If you're not familiar with JSON, I put the link to my free JSON course in the course description. Just look it up and go there. It's very simple to follow and understand, but regardless, this is an array of JSON objects. So I just can say copy, and I want to keep it somewhere to use it. Now I can go back to edit, and the reason that I got a copy of that, because I want to parse that JSON and get the visual view of it. I click on that, add an action, and I use parse JSON. I click on this, and I would say content should come from the select output, and it's asking for the schema, which parse JSON can generate it for us. I just paste the content that I got here and click on done, and I have the schema generated for me. The reason that I did that, now instead of really writing expressions and getting the fields from the select output, now parse JSON gives me all the fields that I need for the create approval and to create my own table in the Markdown language. So I have this parse JSON. All I need to do is to create what I need here as table. So let's start with the Markdown language and see how it works. I can start everything with a header. So for the header of this table, I can say pipe, first column name, I would say title, again pipe, maybe category, pipe, unit price, pipe, let's see what other fields we have. Let me click on here, title, ID, category, unit price, and created by. And don't forget to put the space between the pipe and the field header that you want to use. Space, 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 and space. And we enclose it by another pipe. Although it's optional, you can put it there or not, it doesn't really make a difference. Remember, every row must be specified in one line. So this is one line. Next line is the separator between the header and the footer. This line can be as simple as pipe hyphen pipe for title. another pipe for category. This is a little bit difficult to track, so the tradition is that we put enough hyphens to have pipe under pipe so we can actually track which fields we are using. So let me add a little bit more into it. More here. And a few of these hyphens here. Now we have the header. So before I get the values from parse.json, let me just try it here. Just like test title. Next one is going to be, again, don't forget the spaces. I call it test category. Another pipe, test unit price, and finally created by, I put my own name here. Okay. And that's it. Let me just copy it, press enter, and paste it again. So I have 2 lines here. So basically my table has a header and 2 rows so far. Let's see if we get actually a table there in the email before we move forward. So I click on save and test it. Let me click on test, run flow, done, and we wait for it to complete and get to the wait for an approval. Then we can go back to our mailbox and wait for the email. Okay. Looks a lot better. Now we have title, category, unit price, and created by. This is so far you can go with the table. The reality is that there is nothing more you can do when you decide to style it. By the way, there is a little bit more still. You see all of them are left aligned. We can change the alignment to center or right. So I go back here to the flow. Now let me get rid of this execution, quickly approve it. And now the flow is complete. Let me click on edit now. Now, here is the thing. If I, right before this second pipe that I have here, if I add a colon here, basically it tells the Power Automate engine that this column should be right aligned. For this one, I can say make it center aligned. I think you can guess the rest of it. Let me just save it again and we try it again. Test, test, and run flow. Done. And I go back here to see the result. There we go. And you see now title is right aligned and unit price is center aligned. So we have only that much control. Now let's populate this table from the content that we get from this parse.json. And before that, again, let me just approve, submit, and we're good to go. Flow is complete. Let's go to edit and bring those values here. Now, if you're expecting some magical action that converts this JSON to something like this format that we want for our table, I'm sorry to disappoint you. We got to do it ourselves. So to do that, first I create a variable and I put the header that I have here on the variable, and then we add all the other rows one by one to it. So let me take a copy of it, and I want to create a variable, and I search for variable, and I want to create a variable that I want to call it approval message. The type is going to be string, and the initial value that I want to put inside it is going to be the header that I created. After that, I have to navigate through every single item in the parse.json and add them line by line here. So right after that, I add another action, and under variables, I have an action called append to string variable. And this append to string, assuming that it's in a loop, it can go through every single element that is coming from this parse JSON and add the items here. Basically, the variable that we want to append to is going to be this variable, approval message. So if I click on this dropdown, I will get the approval message. And now, for every line of them, I need to add the value from the parse JSON. So for that, I need an apply to each. And this apply to each needs to get the values from the body of this parse JSON. So I click on this one, parse JSON. It should have a body. Let's see if you can find it here. I put a body here. And from this body right here, I need to just drag and drop this append to string here, please. Okay. And now, every time that navigation goes through every item that is coming from this parse JSON, we get the values and append them to the string that we initialize here, which is the approval message. So this message is going to be, we can see it from here. So first field was title. So pipe parse JSON title space pipe space. The next one is going to be category. I get the category from here, space pipe space. Then it's going to be unit price. Let me pick the unit price, space pipe space. And finally created by, and space pipe, and we're done. Not really. The thing is that every single row must represent itself as a line in the Markdown language. So remember, the initial value, end of it, does not have a new line. So basically, if I want to append this one, it just adds this one to the end of this line, which messes up everything. To avoid that, for every line that we add to this initialize variable, you need to put one new line here. So basically, this new line goes to the end, and this line will be added right as the next line after this variable. So what we have here at the end is going to be exactly what we need. Let me just get rid of it. And now everything is added to the approval message. You want to try it? Let's give it a test, and I click on run flow, done. Fine. Wait for approval. Let's go and see if we get the result. Test table in approval, and we got it. Of course, title being right aligned is a little bit weird, so let me go back and test and fix it again. Of course, I gotta approve this first, or reject it, it doesn't matter. Okay, let me go back here and edit it. And now I just need to remove these columns and save. And this time, if I test it, I get something half decent. Email. Let's wait for the email to come. Click, and everything is perfectly aligned. Well, I understand that was a long video. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you enjoyed it and you liked the video, you know what to do. Drop me one of those and stay tuned till the next video. Thank you for watching.